Welcome to part 2 of the Getting What You Want Powerback episode series. If you didn't catch last week's episode, number 189 is about getting clear about what you want and then cleaning up all the stuff that is stopping you from having it. This week, we're moving forward into shifting the inner dialogue, the headspace stuff, and building an aligned action plan so you know where to focus your time and your energy. These 2 episodes are calling you to get very real with yourself so that you can stop talking about and thinking about what you want and actually start living and having it. If you're looking for a jumpstart for the new year so you can get some clarity, this Powerback duo is absolutely for you. Before we dig into part 2, this is your friendly final episode of the year reminder that I am now booking clarity sessions, which are 45-minute coaching calls free to you, to help you gain clarity and know what to do next. These sessions are an amazing way to see if we have a great synergy to move into then a coaching program to help you implement, shift, gain clarity, get unstuck, and start doing the things that you truly want. There's only a handful of spaces left, so go to LauraAura.com and click on book a clarity session today. All right, let's dig into part 2. Again, if you did not catch last week's Powerback, number 189, that episode precedes this one because it builds the foundational stuff around what's going on, owning what you truly want, and acknowledging what's stopping you. So before you go knee deep into this one, I highly recommend going back, work through, listen through 189, and then come back to this one. Now, if you have already done that, kudos, welcome back. I hope that in this weekish time frame, you really had a chance to hone in on that why, that what you truly desire, what it means to you. And if you went through the exercise, it has likely become glaringly obvious what different things, activities, habits, or beliefs that have been stopping you from doing it all along. Great news is you're showing up, you're doing the work, and those things no longer have to stop you. In fact, this is where you're taking your power back. Hence the reason I call these Powerback episodes. Now, after working with thousands of business owners and people all around the globe over the last, I don't even know how many years now, the one thing that I can tell you is that it's likely not because you can't do something. It's not because you're not capable. It's not because you can't learn. You're not moving forward because you're stopping yourself. This is a common denominator in almost every single person that I have the opportunity to work with. You just get in your own way. You get in your own head. You talk yourself out of it. I am not void of this. I can coach and speak on this so fluently because I'm very fucking familiar. So to be able to move forward, we have to shift what's happening on the inside. These are the conversations that you're having with yourself. These are the doubts, the overwhelm, the confusion, the questioning that you have of yourself. This is when you're talking to yourself like you're just like a tiny peon of nothing. Like you are so much more than that. And you really need to start believing in that, shifting what you're saying to yourself, even just building awareness around what that narrative is saying on a regular basis. Because, my lovely friend, how do you plan on having this amazing thing or life or business while you're talking to yourself like you're nothing? I also want to say that it's not about achieving a level of perfection. It's not like I never have a negative thought about myself. It happens. I question my abilities. I question if I'm good enough. I question if anyone wants to hear this, right? Like I have all those dialogues. So it's not about getting rid of that stuff. It's about acknowledging it and shifting it so that it no longer stops you. Because that negative shit in your head is not your native voice, my friend. It's something that you have heard somewhere, information that you have absorbed, something shitty that somebody said to you one time that planted itself in your subconscious and grew a fucking mint field. I only use mint field as an example because mint, I don't know if you've ever grown mint. This is your PSA. That shit will take over everything. Like one leaf can literally root and it will take over everything. So make sure that that mint is in a potted, contained area. Otherwise, it's going everywhere. Mint is otherwise quite lovely, but just from personal experience, if you run over it with a weed whacker, you're going to have like a half a backyard's worth of fucking mint. That's kind of what's happening with these negative thoughts, this inner dialogue, whatever you're feeding into, that is what is going to grow. And if you're feeding into the negative thoughts, if you're believing that you're not good enough, if you're believing that you can't figure it out, if you're believing that everyone else is already ahead of you, so why should you even begin? Then that is what you're focusing on. And what you focus on grows. And it's not that you're necessarily calling bad things into your world. It's just that you can't see the other options because you're so hyper focused on the can't. Whereas if you start to just tinker with the idea that this is possible, that you're pretty smart and you could figure it out, or I could ask for help. You could also look at all the amazing things that you've done leading up to this. How many times have you troubleshooted and figured something out and tried something and it worked? You are so much more capable than you're giving yourself permission to take up space with. And this is my invitation to you to start fucking taking it up. Because even when you feed just a little tiny bit of your goodness, there's a whole lot of it. But if we're just talking about taking baby steps here, you start feeding into, you know what, this actually might be possible. You know what, I could do this one thing and see how that goes. You start leaning into your potential and your possibility and your ability to figure things out. That's now you have redirected your attention. You have taken all of that energy that was going into the why, the can't, the how, the heaviness, and now you have literally pivoted over and said, you know what if I just lean into this a little bit? You don't have to flip the whole table over overnight. You don't have to have it all figured out tomorrow. But when you lean into the possibility, now you're giving yourself the opportunity for those things to happen. That's what shifting your inner dialogue does, is it gives you the opportunity for these things to happen. And look, the reality behind the mindset is sometimes you got to trick yourself. It's you're not always just going to wake up feeling like daisies and rainbows and full of energy and like, I can't wait to get into it. Some days you're really hustling your way through and like weeding your way through this fucking mint field. You're saying, okay, look at all of this around me. I have no idea how to get to the other side, but you know what I could do today? I could move what's in front of me. I could change the way that I'm looking at this field. I could start focusing on what the other side of this is going to feel like. An incredibly important part of having, living what you want is shifting your inner narrative. So I've got a couple of prompts for you to work through and really to feel into. And the first thing is, how does my aligned self think? Now, your aligned self is the version of you that is already doing this thing. This is where your ideas match your actions, match your outcome, where you're feeling excited, enlightened, like just full of creativity, peace, all of these things that you're wanting to call in, this version of you that lives or has this thing that you already want. How does that person show up? And how does that person think? Is the aligned version of you saying, I can't do this, I'm not good enough, I don't know what I'm doing? Or is she saying, I can figure this out? I've done amazing things in the past. I have incredible resources at hand. I can find the answer. This is the little tiny shift, the little turn of the knob that starts to make an enormous difference. And if you're thinking about how she thinks, also start to think about how she shows up. How is she presenting herself? How is she handling the day? How is she handling her emotions, her mental well-being, her physical body? Getting what you want doesn't come as easily when you're eating like shit, you're staying up all night, you're burning the candle at both ends, and you're telling yourself that you're a piece of shit. Again, why would your desire show up? There's no nutrition in life in your current state for it to grow into. So if you want to start to grow it, if you want to really start having what you want, you've got to start making these little shifts. Get used to pausing and asking yourself, how would my aligned self handle this? How would my aligned self speak today instead? It's all about catching it and shifting it. That's it. It doesn't have to be this big science. It's not a big ceremony. You don't have to go buy anything. It's a very simple thing. In fact, the Powerback process, if you've not heard of that, that is my process that helps you shift your thoughts in the moment instead of them taking you over your life and running you down the fucking road. Go back and listen to Powerback episode 182. I walk you through that. And that particular episode is also based around breaking old habits as well. So it could be a nice dual episode to listen to in conjunction with this. Because the other portion of this is getting very honest about what habits and beliefs are stopping you. This is the stuff that is ready to be shifted. That's no longer serving you. It's not serving your highest good. Your aligned self most certainly is not doing these things. And just getting really honest about what those habits and beliefs are. So, what are you saying to yourself? What are the things that are distracting you? What are the habits that you have, your go tos, your tendencies? There's also a Powerback episode on tendencies. That's back in Powerback 168. If you really get to know your habits, your beliefs, your tendencies, your resistance, then you can build a stronger awareness. That catch it, that's what awareness is. You're just simply catching the thought, the feeling, what's going on in my body right now. Because when you know this stuff about yourself and you start to tap into your aligned self, then you can start to nurture her instead. So, what does she need on a regular basis? What does her mind or her body need? Is it movement? Is it listening to more podcasts or more books? Is it sunshine? Is it eating nutritious foods? Is it having downtime and white space and always blocking out Thursdays on your calendar? Maybe it's in the way that she's showing up, starting to shift the way that you dress, the way that you show up for yourself. The goal here is to start feeding your aligned self, because that is the version of you that's going to help bring you the clarity so you know what to do next. I'm also going to put the disclaimer out there because I feel like somebody needs to hear this. Going through these exercises is also not an invitation to beat yourself up, to say things like, oh, I can't believe I do that. And look at here. And here I am again. I'm doing all this stuff and I've been stopping myself. Okay. No. Does your aligned self talk to you like that? Or does she say things like, yeah, this has been happening and it's helped us up until this point, and it's helped us to navigate a lot of different things, but where we're going, we don't have to do that anymore. So what if we try something new? So my challenge for you with this portion of the exercise is to implement one new healthy habit, something that you can really sink into, something that your aligned self does on a regular basis. One of those things for me is a quiet, slow morning. Now, in my phase of life right now, I'm able to do that. I run my own business. My son is 16. I get to create my own schedule. Our mornings are not hectic. My husband works in the business with me, so that is available to me. That may not be yours as well. I'm just giving you an example that for me, my aligned self, one healthy habit that I know sets me up for success, that I know supports my aligned self. It helps me feel creative. It helps me to feel grounded. Everything gets to be a little bit easier when I take time in the morning to be still and to be quiet. And do I get to do this every single day? No, because sometimes things happen and life responsibilities pop up, or a morning starts off a little bit weird. But because I know that this is helpful and that it supports what I truly want, and one of those things that I want is white space and calmness in my life, then I make it a priority to implement this as much as I can. So, what is your one new aligned healthy habit that you're going to start to implement? And how does this support your greater desire? Now, last but not least, the old handy dandy to-do list. Let's actually reframe that into aligned action. These are the next steps that you're going to take to start to call this into your life. This is about consciously choosing to take action that supports your desire instead of continuing to feed your limitations. Let me just say that one more time. This is about choosing aligned action, things that you're going to do and focus on that support your desire instead of focusing on and feeding your limitations and your excuses. You know that old saying, if you keep doing what you were doing, you're going to keep getting the same result, right? Ta-da, just reframed in a LauraAura way. And one of the most powerful things that you can do is to decide. Gosh, so much time and energy and effort gets lost in the wavering back and forth. I might not, I should, I shouldn't, I will, I won't. You have to just decide, because once you decide, new doors can start to open. You start to look at things through a different lens. Your aligned self comes in and says, okay, let's do this next thing together. So what is it going to take for you to actually start to live and be this? It's deciding. So wherever you're journaling right now, write down your decision. I commit to, I am ready for. Really like feel into that, own it in your body. And it doesn't mean that fear isn't going to pop up or questioning isn't going to pop up, right? We're just observing. We're just noticing those things. We're just getting curious about them. But until you decide, you're not going to put everything that you can into this. And when you do decide, my friend, I'm telling you, the speed in which things can happen, the clarity that can happen, it's literally instant. Like I told you in the last episode, within hours of making a decision, a whole set of opportunities presented themselves. And I know that your brain probably wants to try and figure out everything, right? That's kind of human nature and the way that our brains function. What I want to encourage you to do in your action item here is to focus on the one next thing. What is one next action that you can take to bring this forward? This might be making one phone call. It might be registering your one domain. It might be cleaning out your closet. It might be updating your resume. It could be decluttering your desk and restyling your office, right? Like one next thing doesn't have to be the monumental thing that changes everything. But what it does is it starts to build momentum. And when you have momentum, more clarity comes along the way. What that boils down to is when you take one next step, your one next step after that starts to present itself, and then another, and then another. Now, two other tidbits that I'll slide across the table that can have a really big impact with the action portion of this is to break down what is needed of me on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis to bring this desire to life. So, for instance, I'll just use the example. If your desire, your want is to launch a podcast next year, there are things that need to happen so that that can come to fruition, right? Here's a couple of examples for daily, weekly, and monthly aligned action items that you can do to really boost into this. A daily action might be to journal into topics, ideas, getting a flow of consciousness of ideas and creativity. It's really easy when you're building a podcast to feel like I'm going to run out of things to say. So if you get in the habit of daily writing things down, you're going to build an incredible library of content. A weekly task might be to interact in some podcast Facebook groups, going in, connecting with other podcasters, joining some different groups. LinkedIn has a great opportunity for you to connect with other like-minded people. If you set the expectation of yourself that once a week you're going to go in and interact in these groups, you can really not only gain some knowledge, but build a great network as well. And then a monthly task might be outreach, connecting with other podcasters, asking people to be a guest on your show, or focusing on what your promotions, your marketing, and your messaging are. Notice nowhere in there did I talk about the technicalities. Now, is that part of it? Yes, but I'm talking about regular habits, regular intentional actions that you are taking that support your desire. Because it could be really easy to say, well, I don't know anybody in podcasting and I don't know how to do it. And then guess what? This time next year, still on your list is going to be, I want to launch a podcast next year. This is all about breaking it down into simplified ways for you to move forward. And when you pair that with focusing on your one next step, you focus and commit to doing that thing and complete it. The ball will just start rolling. I can promise you that. It doesn't mean that obstacles or questions or like hangups aren't going to happen. No, I mean, if that happens, wonderful. But the reality is we're human beings and shit happens. And we have to navigate this stuff. But this is all about giving you the base to have the tools in your tool belt so that you can choose to shift through it, to see it as an opportunity to fine tune or get more information, to pivot, to dodge, to shift things around, but most importantly, to stay aligned with the bigger vision. The last piece of advice I'll give you for this series is to get it in front of you. This thing that you want, whatever that is, whatever that looks like, whatever that feels like, get it in front of you. I'm a big nerd for going and pulling off beautiful images off of Pinterest and laying it out on an 11 by 17 and printing that bitch out and putting it on the wall. I love to see the vision, not just in my head, but outside of my head as well. And honestly, it's easy to forget it in your head and in your body sometimes. So when it's physically in front of you, it's like a little nod from the universe to be like, "Hey, remember this thing? Why don't we do something towards this today?" So take some time, like really feel into this. Put some good music on, make a whole thing of it, have your favorite cup of coffee or tea or whatever the hell you want to drink. Like get excited about this because it's possible. That thing that you wrote down last week and that you've been feeding into this week, it is possible. So start treating it as such. And when you print it out and it's in front of you, you can really feel into it because energy, look, the vibration is real. When you're looking at it, when you're feeling what that feels like, remember that question last week where I asked you, how does it feel to celebrate this a year from now? And not saying that it's going to take a year, but I'm just talking, we're end of year here. If you feel into that accomplishment, you instantly raise your vibration. And when you do that, it attracts the right opportunities, the right next steps, the right open doors. Look, is this process going to solve everything in your world? Probably not. Can it change a lot in your world? Absolutely. In fact, I dare you to implement this. Dare you. Oh, yeah, we're doing a little truth and dare here. I dare you to implement this and watch how quickly, easily, and smoothly things begin to change in your world. This is the magic that I teach here on earth. It's what I coach my clients through. So, as you're going through this, if you're really feeling like I could use someone by my side as I kickstart this, I absolutely encourage you to grab one of the final clarity session calls on my website. I'm taking on a handful, just a few new coaching clients to begin 2024, and I would absolutely love to guide you through it. You can book that if you go to LauraAura.com. There's a button at the top, or you can just scroll down on the show notes. There's a link there too. My friend, I am just insanely honored by you being here, by you tuning in, by leaving your reviews, sharing the show with your friends, the growth that we have had together this year. Like we have had more downloads in this 1 year than we've had the 4 years collectively prior to this. Together, we have made it into the top 100 under entrepreneurship on Apple Podcasts. Amazon Music has featured us as a show to listen to. But most importantly, above all that, I get to be a part of your growth and your expansion. And I want to thank you for inviting me to be in your ears and on your tablets every single day. This has been an incredible year. And you know what? I have taken action on the things that I teach you on. The shit that I teach you, it's the same stuff that I'm using every single day. And I've made big decisions that have created so much capacity for me to lean into this further. So I can't wait to see the magic that we create together in 2024. From the bottom of my heart, thank you for listening to the Gutsy podcast, for tuning in and connecting with me on social. If you're not already, I am at that LauraAura. And as always, until I see you next time, stay gutsy.